Assalamu alaikum class. Wa alaikum salam. Today, we are going to talk about Cave of the Seven Sleepers. A time and place unknown to us now, there was a polytheistic village whose king and people had strayed from the straight path, and worshipped with Allah that which could neither harm them nor benefit them. However, they were defending these alleged gods, and were not pleased that anyone should touch them with evil. And they harmed everyone who disbelieved in them, and did not worship them. In this corrupt society, a group of wise young men appeared. A small minority used their reason and refused to prostrate to anyone other than their Creator, Allah, in whose hand is everything. Young men believed in Allah, so He made them steadfast and increased their guidance, and inspired them with the path of righteousness. These young men were neither prophets nor messengers, and they were not required to bear what messengers bear in calling their people. They were people of firm faith, so they denied their people's association with God, and asked them to establish proof of the existence of gods other than Allah. Then they decided to save their religion and themselves by emigrating from the village to a safe place where they could worship Allah. The village was corrupt, and its people were astray. The young men decided to leave the village and head to a deserted cave to be a refuge for them. They left the vast city with their dog to the narrow cave. They left their comfortable homes behind to live in a desolate cave. This is not strange for someone whose heart is filled with faith. The believer sees the desert as a garden if he feels that Allah is with him. He sees the cave as a palace if Allah chooses a companion for him. These people did not leave their village to seek worldly gain or wealth, but they left in the hope of pleasing Allah. Any place where they could worship Allah and attain His pleasure would be better than the village they left. The young men lay down in the cave, and their dog sat at the door of the cave guarding it. And here a divine miracle occurred. The boys slept for 309 years. During this time, the sun rose to the right of their cave and set to the left, so its rays did not reach them, neither at the beginning of the day nor at the end of it. They would turn over in their sleep, and anyone looking at them would feel terrified because they were asleep, but they were as if they were awake from the amount of tossing and turning. After all this time, Allah resurrected them again. They woke up from their long sleep, but they did not realize how much time had passed in their sleep. The effects of the long sleep were evident on them. They asked themselves, "How long have we been there?" Some of them answered, "We have been there a day or part of a day." But they quickly passed the stage of astonishment, as the duration of sleep is not important. What is important is that they have woken up and they have to manage their affairs. They took out the money they had with them, then asked one of them to go secretly to the city, and buy good food with this money, then return to them gently so that no one would notice. Perhaps the king's soldiers or the oppressors of the village would punish them if they knew about their affair. They might give them the choice between returning to polytheism, or being stoned to death. The believing man went out heading to the village, but it was not as he had known it. The places and faces had changed. The goods and money changed. He wondered how all this could happen in one day and one night. Of course, it was not difficult for the villagers to recognize the astonishment of this man. It was not difficult for them to know that he was a stranger, from the clothes he was wearing and the money he was carrying. The city from which the young men came had become safe, and the unjust king had perished, and a righteous man had come in his place. After the miracle was proven, the miracle of reviving the dead, and after the hearts of the villagers were certain of the ability of Allah, the Most High, to resurrect the dead, by seeing a tangible, realistic example before them, Allah took the souls of the young men. Every soul has a term, and it must die. So the people of the village differed. Some of them called for the construction of a building over their cave, and some of them demanded the construction of a mosque. And we still do not know any matters related to them. Were they before the time of Prophet Isa, peace be upon him, or were they after him? Were they in a city in the lands of the Romans, or in Palestine? Were they 3 and their dog was the 4th, or 5 and their dog was the 6th, or 7 and their dog was the 8th? All of these are unknown to us. However, a year was given for those who lived during their time to see the ability of Allah to resurrect those in the graves, and for generations to pass on the news of this miracle, generation after generation. MashaAllah.